Hi, Dr. Lamb. This is our fourth and final reflection for our math methods class. And tonight we're going to be talking about the lesson plan that we created about geometry and spatial reasoning. The first question that you asked in our reflection questions were, what challenges did you face in preparing for the lesson? So for me, to start preparing for the lesson, I had already read chapters 15 and 16 for our quiz. So I went back and looked. And I'll show you the page. This is where I started, which kind of talked about a little bit about shapes, and I liked it because it had beginning activities. And my friend has a son that's in first grade, and he's the one that helped me complete this project and worked with me on the lesson plan. So one of the things that the book suggested is kind of a lesson about who am I, which is where you show the student a shape and they identify it. So just took that and kind of made it a little bit for what I needed, because my and my objective was that students could sort and classify irregular and regular shapes based on informal geometric language. One of the challenges that I faced that I definitely I felt like I was at a little bit of a disadvantage about is because I don't have a lot of experience with my student that I did this with as far as any kind of formal academic setting. I don't really know where he is in school, and I tried to ask a little bit, but and get exact answers. So what I just kind of had to make some generalities and some assumptions, which backfired on me just a little bit when we talk about kind of like the challenges of implementing the lesson. So, but other than that, I found a lot of good help online, and our book had a lot of suggestions, especially when it came to kind of helping with the vocabulary and really the meat of the lesson. So, as far as implementing the lesson goes, I feel like I was able to implement the lesson. I did try to keep it kind of simple because I didn't know a lot about where he was academically, and I didn't want to give him something that was too hard. I also didn't want to give him something that was too easy, so I did have a really cute extension. If I did see that it was too easy of a lesson, my extension was going to give him riddles about shapes, just because I thought that was fun, and I thought it would kind of go along with him naming the shapes. So, but if we kind of move on to the third question, I'll kind of use that to wrap everything up, which talks about how is learning effective by your planning and teaching. Well, a couple things that I learned is that one, anytime we're talking about sorting and classifying shapes, what I did is I had a worksheet, an activity sheet that I printed out, which had him cut out shapes, irregular shapes and regular shapes, and glue them into their correct name, and then write down one attribute about it. So like it has four sides or anything like that. One thing that I learned, one thing that I realized in hindsight, is that if I had a manipulative, like those flat shapes, we've used them in class before, I can't think of exactly what they're called at the moment, but if I had some kind of like real life manipulative, would have been absolutely perfect for this lesson. So that's definitely something that if I am teaching in a younger grade, which I hope I am, this TEK will come up, and that's something that I definitely will know. He didn't really have any problems with the regular shapes. We talked about squares, we talked about circles, we talked about triangles, we talked about rhombuses. He called it a diamond, and we kind of clarified about that. I even took a square and on a piece of paper that I drew, and I tried to show him how a square was a rhombus. And he didn't have any problem talking about, it has this many sides, this is this shape, that kind of thing. Where we really had trouble, and I guess this is kind of to be expected, was when we got into the irregular shapes. And one of the ones that we really kind of focused on, and we used this for the closure and in the lesson, was an octagon. It has 8 sides. It's also the shape of stop sign. So I just thought that was something that was familiar. The irregular shapes were a lot harder for him to sort and to really understand. From what I could tell, he didn't have a lot of prior knowledge about that. So in hindsight, if I look back, I should have delved more into that in the focus and in the direct instruction part of the lesson. I feel like that would have really been beneficial to him. But overall, especially with the regular shapes and getting the attributes and understanding that those were characteristics and that a 2D shape is a flat shape, he did really, really well. And it was a pretty easy lesson, and one that I hope that I'll be able to use again in the future. Thanks.